and welcome back to Civic Concord, a podcast where we share information, highlight important topics, and hear directly from people involved in town government. This is a Minuteman Media Network production. Today's conversation is part of our 2026 annual town meeting series, and we're going to be talking about 3 articles. Article 13, Concord Public Schools operating budget, Article 14, Concord Public Schools capital budget, and Article 15, Concord-Carlisle Regional School District budget. And today I'm joined by Chair of the Regional School Committee, Tracey Morano. Hi, Tracey.
Hi, how are you?
Good, thanks. And School Superintendent, Dr. Laurie Hunter. Welcome.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for being here. So across the 3 articles, town meeting is being asked to vote on, as we said, the Concord Public School operating budget, the capital budget, and Concord share of the regional high school budget. Let's talk a little bit about the Concord Public School operating budget. What are the main priorities or themes behind this year's budget?
Sure. We had a major theme this year of just maintaining level service.
That's a good one.
Yeah, that was the goal. So we really worked hard to do that, as well as supporting our initiatives and other goals for the future, which many don't have direct connection to the costs or the budget requests because of the nature of the work. So we've been really looking at that and making sure that we're maintaining the high quality programming that we've been providing. We've built out an extensive continuum of special education programming that's been really robust, not only for the special education students, but for all students. Mm-hmm. And that's had financial benefits, so we're glad to report that and can talk on that as we go. We've also had a lot of success in grant funding for many different kinds. Many years we would apply for competitive grants, and the demographic would be a substantial disadvantage. Mm-hmm. We're finding more success there and have been able to fund a good number of projects that way. So the combination of all that is what the budget was aiming to do, and continue to further our goals while maintaining level service.
Great. And, people often look at staffing when looking at school budgets, or really all budgets. Can you explain what's happening with staffing this year and how enrollment changes are affecting those decisions?
Absolutely. We have declining enrollment, not at an enormous level, but at enough of a level that we're continuing to reduce staff. That's been the case as the CPS budget for the last few years. Mm-hmm. This year it's primarily happening at Willard because the shelter buffered them. Okay. From that, and when we lost 40 students all at once,
that's a big.
It had a significant impact. Yeah. So we've been looking at reductions in staffing across regular education and, frankly, all positions to make sure that we're right-sized. Through that process and identifying those reductions, then we have to do all the work of how that has impact and where and how while we maintain level service. Mm-hmm. So that has been the theme of this year's budget build for sure. I think after this, enrollments are stable for the most part, which probably will minimize the ability to find reductions. Okay. Because that is how we got to guideline this year, that and the combination of special education savings that we've had. So that's the work we've been doing, and enrollments definitely drove a lot of what's in this budget this year.
And so what are the biggest factors driving, the modest increase in the operating budget this year? Because it goes up every year because costs go up. What was kind of behind the curtain with the biggest cost?
Yeah, so the biggest cost is always the staffing. COLAs, the cost of living increases, not because we're adding staff, but because of the contractual agreements that we have. So that number is always bigger than the guideline number. Yeah. So that's where we start, is trying to save enough to still come in at a guideline while supporting all those increases. So we do a lot of work down in the weeds in budget building. We call it zero-based budgeting, and that's how we can identify those savings. We don't just roll things over year to year to year, because if we don't make reductions,
it won't even out.
We're going to have a very, very big request that we know the town can't support. So that's been the strategy. Every year there's a different theme of how we get there. Mm-hmm. This year it's enrollments and special education. I think my worry, probably worth saying here since I've said it everywhere else, as we have so few kids out of district, especially at CPS, we're looking at 5 or 6 in the fall, which is unheard of. And the enrollment is stabilizing. It's going to be, where are we going to keep finding the savings is the next question.
Got it.
Yeah.
And I do think it's important to add that, 5 years ago, we had about 40 kids out of district.
Yes.
or even more than that.
Yes.
So, I mean, that's where we're really finding the savings, but we're really proud of the in-district programming that we've built here to keep kids in their community.
And 40 was just CPS.
Just
It was
CPS,
100
yeah.
across both schools, and now we're in the 40s across both districts.
And for people listening that might be curious, I mean, there's probably a number of reasons why students would go to school at a different district. I mean, is there?
Yeah, very specific needs that we
Okay.
aren't able to meet in our programs.
But so saying only 5 or 6 are out of districts, that's saying the program is able to accommodate many of the students, the majority.
Most.
Yeah. That's great. So the second article we were going to talk about, Article 14, is the capital plan. Kind of this series is trying to be a little bit of a 101 here too for people kind of entering into town meeting, maybe for the first time or just a different way to explain it. Could you talk a little bit about the difference between operating budget and the capital budget for the schools?
Yes. So those come from different buckets of money, essentially. So the operating budget is a standalone operational request that funds all the things that we do on a daily basis. The capital is in partnership, at least at CPS, is in partnership with the town's capital requests and is actually now commingled with that, which I think has been a great step so that it's a big picture view of capital across Concord and not just town versus school. And really for us, the capital plan at CPS is focused on the elementary schools. The brand new middle school, obviously, is reducing our needs there. Ripley, I think we're all in agreement, is end of life, whatever we are going to come up with there to meet some of those needs down the road. So it really is about the elementary schools, which with buildings aged at about 20 years old-ish, the time is right to start to look at what those needs are. So that's what the capital plan this year is.
What are some of the examples of projects for the elementary schools?
Yeah, so we're purposely trying to stay at some of the lower cost projects and pushing bigger projects like roof replacements and things like that down the road till we're further out from the middle school project, and maybe the bonds have come off for the elementary schools because that's imminently coming, trying to just balance out the needs of the requests. So this year we're looking at really more operational technology, and by that I mean building management systems. We have 2 of the 3 auditoriums in need of some repair for infrastructure. It's really impacting our ability to use that, whether it's audio or visual, and then some really basic things, equipment to clean the schools and some outdoor repairs in the driveways and things. So minimal requests. I think we're working off of a capital review we did a few years ago. So this is the
What's left?
Yeah. Well, it's
Before
it's
you
the
get to the
beginning.
roofs.
It's chipping away at the smaller items. Yeah.
Got it. And the third article relates to the Concord-Carlisle Regional School District. How is the high school budget different from Concord Public Schools? I mean, it's a different district, so that's one reason.
Yeah. So it stands alone as an entity unto itself as the regional district with Carlisle. And that means it is very different because it is inclusive of everything that the region needs, not just the operational piece of the schools, but health insurance and workers' comp and OPEB and on and on. So it has a much broader scope that at CPS the town carries a good portion of those things. So it's all inclusive in that way. And I guess practically that means we have to work with Carlisle, obviously, and we go back and forth between finance committees and ultimately 2 town meetings.
Oh, yeah, that's true. And whose is first this year? Is it Concord?
Concord.
And then Carlisle's
Then
after?
Carlisle.
Yeah. Were there, probably the same as Concord Public School, but were there any different factors influencing the regional school budget this year?
Not different exactly, but the same enrollment things have.
Sure.
The same enrollment factors have had impact at the high school now. So we're looking at how to modify staffing levels. It's complicated at a high school. Teachers teach sections of their jobs. So 1 section of English, 4 sections is a full-time equivalent. So, and we can't, it's harder to reduce. But we've been doing that work as well. So there are reductions at the high school this fall as well, which helped us to get to guideline.
Great. One thing residents might hear about is the cost of the regional school district is shared between Concord and Carlisle, as we discussed. Can you explain how that works and what is anything changing this year?
Definitely. So the The regional agreement determines how we do the split. So on October 1st, it's whoever is literally sitting in seats from Concord and Carlisle, and then a percentage gets assessed to Carlisle and a percentage gets assessed to Concord. And so this year there was a huge enrollment shift. So Carlisle has an increase of 9% this year, and in Concord we're actually a negative increase.
Okay. So this year's payment is split up that way.
Yes.
So it's a very big challenge for Carlisle this year
Yeah,
to meet
that's
the
enormous.
regional budget.
And when you're building these budgets, how do you balance maintaining strong educational programs with the fiscal constraints facing the town? I mean, you talked about how to look at the staff, and that I think that's really challenging, especially when you have such subject matter experts. But how else do you kind of look at?
We do a lot of reallocating so that as a need wanes or we've realized how to do it, we might be able to repurpose positions or even tools and materials so that we don't have to keep asking for increases, which means we give things up sometimes. That is very much the case over the last few years, that we're willing to give up something in one place and go to the school committee and request that be reallocated for a different purpose so that we're not
as the needs shift.
As the needs
Yeah.
Yeah. And I guess it's worth saying I did not bring certain needs to this budget process. There's a wish list.
Sure.
Wish is probably generous. A list of things that we need that we didn't ask for because we felt like we wanted to be within the guideline and did what we needed to do to meet that.
And I think that this year we did a tremendous amount of work with the Finance Committee, so in Concord and in Carlisle. So Brian Watterson, who's the vice chair, has done a lot of work with the Carlisle Finance Committee, knowing that their assessment increase has been significant. And then we did a lot of work with the Finance Committee just so everybody has a basic understanding of what really goes into budget building.
That's helpful. Yeah, I think, it starts early and it lasts a long time.
It does.
and then we're here in the spring. But it's always, there's different parts of the year where you're in multiple budgets.
Yes.
And always thinking about the next year and planning for that. So,
which is the challenge. We build our budget in October, so we've just opened that school year. We're trying to project out for something that's many, many, many months ahead, with a lot of things that can change in the time between then and when we're actually going to live the budget. So that's one of our greatest challenges is we've barely opened the door to the current school year, and then we're trying to
you're
plan
really talking
for a
about
year
next
out.
year.
Next year.
Yeah.
without having the real experience of the year you're in.
Yes.
So you're really looking back.
Yeah.
That's right. So kind of winding down here, if residents take one or two key points away about, these 3 articles and the school budget, what would you want them to understand before town meeting?
Yeah, I mean, we're enormously grateful. We're watching communities all around us not be able to maintain level service, so I don't take that lightly that this community's willing and reaching that annually so far. We know we need to do our part, but the community continues to do its part. And I think we're going to need to keep working together. I don't think it's going to get easier. So just enormous gratitude that we're able to maintain the high-quality programming that we're used to.
I would agree, and I think there's been tremendous collaboration across boards and committees this year, and that really is only going to best serve the town and the students in the town and the community.
Great. And finally, what are you most proud of in the school system right now that this budget helps support?
I mean, the children, obviously, is the big answer. But as I get to watch them and experience certain things, or the vision of a plan comes together and we're watching students really live it, it's just nothing but extraordinary.
And I think, our in-district program is something that I always talk about. That I think it's really been great to keep our students in the community. I look at our launch retail space that's over by the Crosby's Marketplace, where we have our students that are 18 to 22 working there. Possibilities. And I know I call it the launch retail space, but it really is possibilities. We rolled out a K-5 new literacy curriculum this year. I mean, there's some really great things happening in schools, and it'd be great if people could really understand, there's so much that goes into schools, and just to get the word out there. I was actually talking to the Minuteman Media, and they were talking about kids coming in here during flex blocks and producing shows and podcasts, and it's just great to see our students really working together and with all the resources we have here in Concord.
Absolutely. Well, thank you both so much for coming in to talk about it, and we'll see everyone at town meeting.
Thank
Thank
you.
Thank you.